Good morning. It's Friday, May the 21st, and this is The Drill. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today I'm going to be reading from the Daily Declarations of Spiritual Warfare. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, the Star-Spangled-Banner, and we're going to also have a clip from the John and Ken show that's going to help me to illustrate a point. All that and much more when I come back. May 21st. My river of blessing flows into every valley place. My child, my river of blessing is starting to flow into all your valley places. Lift up your eyes to me. Do not bow down in your valley experience and lose hope, for I have promised to send my living water to be a fountain of blessing to you. The mountains will drip with the new wine of my spirit, and a fountain of living water will flow from my throne to water all your valley places. Every valley shall be filled, and every mountain and hill brought low. The crooked places will be made straight, and the rough ways smooth. You will see the salvation of your God, and you will arise in hope. Though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fear no evil, for I am with you. My rod and my staff will comfort you, and I will prepare a table of my blessing in the presence of all your enemies. Prayer declaration. Lord, I praise your name for the river of your blessing that is beginning to flow in my life, filling up all my valley places. I will arise in hope, for I can see the salvation of my Lord flowing into my life. I will no longer fear the darkness and uncertainty of the valley, for even though I have to walk through a valley of death, you will be with me with your comfort and blessing. Amen. And so I love reading these daily declarations because they're to the point. We're fighting Satan. We're fighting evil. This isn't a self-perfection journey, as the left would have you believe, that you go to church just to listen to fables about Jesus Christ and what a great role model he was. Jesus Christ is not our role model. Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. And so these daily declarations remind us of that and remind us of the fact that we can have a personal relationship with God and that we should go ahead and do so. So now, the pledge, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star-Spangled Banner. Thank you very much. And now, stay standing for the Star-Spangled Banner.
Stars
Thank you, and that is absolutely gorgeous. I like the idea of having kids doing the Pledge of Allegiance and singing the Star-Spangled Banner because it adds a touch of innocence about it. The left likes to pretend that they're jaded and that they've seen everything, done everything, they've been there, done that, got the T-shirt kind of an attitude. And for true conservatives, we're not that way. We are people that still have a sense. We're adults, but we still have a sense of wonder about our country, about the world at large. Also, the Star-Spangled Banner and the Pledge are to remind us as true conservatives that part of what makes us a true conservative is patriotism. We are not people of the world. What is it that the left calls it? Internationalism or some crap like that. No. We are Americans, and as Donald Trump has said, it's America first. We do what is best for us first. Let mind our own business, and let everybody take care of themselves and mind their own business. So when I come back, I'm going to be playing a clip from the John and Ken show that helps me illustrate a very important point. Thank you. And so again, from the John and Ken show, and this is from yesterday's show, and they're talking about, for those of you that are not familiar with Southern California, their local John and Ken show is a local radio show, and but with quite a reach. They can be heard in San Francisco and other places, but they are talking about there was a homeless, because we have, as many people may have known in the news, quite the crisis with regards to property and property rights. There's squatters that are basically taking over lots of huge portions of Los Angeles, primarily Los Angeles, but also at the beaches, because, hey, who doesn't want to live at the beach? And so these squatters are taking over various places, and our politicians refuse to do anything about it. As a matter of fact, they're pro-squatter. They will tell the police departments to stand down, not to arrest these individuals who are squatting and who are creating, like I said, not just squatting, but creating filth and whatnot. So that's, again, you call the police say there's nothing we can do about it. If you call your councilman, they ignore you. So they had this crisis at a place, it's called Echo Park. And in Echo Park, there is a lake, a nice big lake, and you can get one of these paddle things where you and your girlfriend get into it and operate some pedals that paddle your boat around the lake and all that. It's very, very bucolic. And so the squatters took over a large section of the lake. It became not only filthy, but it was dangerous. There was needles strewn about. There was crime that was being committed, and that the people from the neighborhood were constantly subjected to violence and violent behavior. So they finally, one of the councilmen finally got sick of it, and they cleaned it up. They kicked everybody out of there. They took out 30 tons of garbage out of there. And I think 4 tons of human waste out of there, because these people were just taking a dump wherever they felt like it. And so they're talking, that's what the conversation is about.
So Monday's like a Saturday. It doesn't matter.
1-877-MOIST-86. Toll free. 1-877-664-7886. We were just talking to a resident of Echo Park about the reopening of Echo Park Lake, which is coming up next week, just before the Memorial Day weekend. After 2 months, they went in there and they trimmed the trees, renovated the boathouse, removed graffiti. They authorized $1.1 million for repairs, and as we said a moment ago, they had to take out 35 tons of trash.
35 tons of trash.
Vagrants left behind.
Which 2 writers from the LA Times called the result of the basic sanitation practices that the homeless engaged in.
Must have been the pantry. They must have left some food behind in their pantry.
Yeah. Don't you love that, though? That
the only thing we didn't hear was that they had their own government. Remember, we used to hear that about these.
Well, they tried that up in Seattle, remember?
They tried that, too, I think, at Occupy L.A., remember?
Right, exactly.
You had to do certain rules.
Everybody sat in a circle and got stoned and started arguing with each other.
It's like a woke government. And remember, there's no genders here. There's no real order of authority. Got a little crazy.
There's no genders.
That's the woke world.
We're in the no gender zone. I'm sorry we have no men and we have no women.
Nobody's in charge. Everybody's equal. So what we got to watch out for, and we got a hint of this with the story in Venice, and they're described as a new group, unhoused tenants against carceral housing. Carceral is just a short form of incarceration, which is being in prison, right? They are denouncing strict curfews and punitive rules at these Project Room Key sites. This is Gavin Newsom's great idea to put the vagrants in hotel rooms. Remember that? We're not asking for the world, said one guy. Oh, his name is Leonard Averhart, but he's also known as Phoenix. So you want to use a street name, he's Phoenix. He's one of the unhoused people formerly that was living at Echo Park Lake. You heard Riley Montgomery mention that some of them were put in a hotel in downtown LA. He said it was a nice one. I don't know. He went into a Project Room Key hotel room when the park was fenced off. Phoenix says, "We were just asking to be treated like adults." He says he didn't get a case manager and a staffer barged in on him in the bathroom and challenged him to a fight. Others in the program complained that they had suffered harassment. They were not given keys to their rooms. They were not allowed to have ordinary items like cloth towels or utensils. Are you getting the idea here? We're talking about brats. Maybe their complaints are true. I don't care. If you want to be an adult, then be a responsible adult and don't count on free housing.
When you get a job, a magical thing happens. You get money, you could rent your own apartment, and nobody's your boss. And there's nobody to tell you what to do.
Keep your towels and utensils. Nobody will take them. In fact, you go buy them yourself.
But one of the things this proves, and everyone's going to see this, it may take years to dawn on everybody, because everyone is so dim these days, the demands are never going to end.
Exactly.
Never going to end.
Right.
And if in any way you end up benefiting by having a more peaceful, more quiet, more violence-free neighborhood, then that's a bad outcome for these groups. Because what they want to do is inflict distress on your peaceful little suburban environment. They hate that. They hate the money you make, the house you own. They hate your children, your cars, your pool, your lawn. They hate that you have it. And what they want to do is make it impossible for you to live in the area. They want you to move out. They want you to leave so they can take over the land. That's their political purpose. That's what they want out of this. It's not about the homeless. They're using the homeless as a prop and a shield to manipulate you and make you feel guilty. Make everyone say, well, I support helping the homeless. What I'm noticing is people who are furious with all the homeless encampments. But when they speak out loud in front of other people, I just want to make it clear that, I have nothing against the homeless. I feel sad for them. That stop with all the caveats. Stop with all the virtue signaling, okay? What they're doing is disgusting. By these groups that are organizing to destroy neighborhoods. It's disgusting. You have every right to be angry and say, we are not tolerating this here. You don't have to apologize for it. You don't have to show off that you're really filled with virtue and love.
My short version of that is they hate capitalism. They believe capitalism caused homelessness, and this is the revenge they want to wreak on a capitalist society in a country that they hate.
There we go. So two things about the conversation. Number one, they keep using the word homeless. There's a lot of words that they're using, John and Ken are, and everybody, all the broadcasters on KFI are using. So I'm assuming that they're instructed to use these particular words and phrases. One of them is migrant, and then the other one is homeless. These folks, to be thought of properly, are not homeless. They are bums, or even better, squatters, because squatters gets to the point. Squatters are people that have no right to the land, but there is such thing as squatters' rights. If you can sit on somebody's property long enough, I think it's 2 years, and they have to know that you're there, and you're there for 2 years, you can claim a piece, that whatever piece of their property that you're squatting on. So if I go and I set up a tent on your front yard, and you come out and you look, and maybe you come out and give me food and stuff like that, and 2 years later, you try to kick me off your property, guess what? Not only am I not going to leave, but now that section of your property now belongs to me. I just have a lawyer, I go to court, and guess what? Now this belongs to me. So anyways, they're thought of properly as squatters. They shouldn't be using the term homeless. It's also a psychological issue. Tactically and strategically, you cannot fight the homeless. You can fight bums and squatters. Okay, so it's vitally important. The other thing that he's talking about here, though, that is a plus that really cheered me up, because I hear so much crap on the radio. Just like I said, migrants and homeless, and it's so fucking depressing. But anyways, so he said there's no reason for people to qualify. So they're going to criticize the squatters, but they preface it by saying, "Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not against the homeless. I'm blah, 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 blah." And that's part of the problem. When you think of them as the homeless, again, you can't fight them. And he said, these are people that are furious, absolutely seething with rage over what's going on to their property, public and private. And furthermore, the fact that nobody wants to do anything about it. Okay, so when you go into this with the opponent is the homeless, you can't go in there and say, "Damn the homeless. Go tell the homeless to go to hell. I'm going to kick the homeless's ass." You can't do that. That's not going to. You won't have a single friend left. So you have to qualify. You got to qualify your statement by saying, "Oh, don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm against the homeless. I still like the homeless. I understand the homeless." And when you do that, you've watered down your message. Your message loses all of its power. Okay, you give yourself away. It also points to a larger issue here, which is the left talks about doing away with conservatives and Republicans. They will never do so. Okay, there's certain individuals on the left that want, they'll hand out flyers, "Oh, we got to kill all the Republicans" and all that. It'll never happen. It's just not going to happen, because these folks are not constructing anything. These folks are not putting on a pair of gloves and picking up a hammer to create homes for the squatters. They're not doing that. Okay, they see themselves as leaders and change agents. And then they are going to emotionally manipulate, psychologically manipulate, socially manipulate the right conservatives, ersatz conservatives, Republicans, into doing that for them. They run around pointing out, look, over there is a squatter over there. Look at that squatter over there. It's like the best example of this is that captain, a guy, he's not even a captain, he just has his own boat. But he goes out in the Pacific Ocean every once in a while, collects garbage from the ocean, and then he holds a press conference. Instead of coming back and simply putting the garbage in the trash can, maybe make a few trips, pick up as much garbage as he possibly can, and then bring it back to shore and throw it away, put it in a dumpster or take it to the dump. No. He's got to hold a press conference, okay, because he's a leader and a change agent. But that's one of their vulnerable points, the left, is this fantasy that there's some kind of leader and change agent. So when you hear them talking about this or that or the other thing, and you want to shut them up real quick, you simply say, "Sorry, you're not a leader or a change agent." So, but good for John of the John and Ken Show to recognize that you need not qualify. Because, yeah, I hear Republicans do it all the time. I used to hear Rush Limbaugh on his show. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand. Okay, and when you do that, again, you water down your message. Okay, whatever you're going to say after that is practically useless. You don't do it. You don't need to. They need us. We don't need them. So, remember that. So when I come back, I'm going to be reading from the book Live Not by Lies, another section of that. It's just an absolutely outstanding book. It's current. The only problem with it is that the way that he sets it up, the references are rather obscure. He talks about Czechoslovakia and Russia and Poland, and he's talking about people that were important in world history decades ago, like Václav Havel. I was there when all this was going down. When the Soviet Union went down, when the Iron Curtain countries, when the Iron Curtain was lifted, let's put it that way, I remember all these people. Romania, Ceausescu was assassinated by his own personal guards. Czechoslovakia had what was known as the Velvet Revolution because it was a very peaceful transition to power, and the dissident, one of their primary dissidents, Václav Havel, ended up becoming president of either Czech or Slovakia. I don't know which one, but he ended up being, well, I think it was just Czechoslovakia overall, and then they eventually he oversaw the splitting of Czechoslovakia into the Czech Republic and Slovakia. The same thing in Poland, where you had Lech Walesa, who was a union leader in Poland, and he led a movement in Poland called Solidarity. And we used to hear about that every day on the news. And when the Iron Curtain came down or was lifted, Mr. Walesa ended up becoming president of Poland. Also, there was a Polish bishop that ended up becoming Pope, John Paul II. So anyways, I remember all of that stuff. But for a lot of other people, it might seem rather obscure. But let's go ahead and get that queued up here. And like I said, I just think that the book is absolutely right on in terms of culture, because that's basically what this book is talking about, the vitality of culture and how it is absolutely necessary to shape our culture if we want to shape our politics. So many people on the right, so many broadcasters, all the broadcasters are absolutely wrong. They put politics as the foundation, and that if we get our politics right, then our culture will follow suit. Wrong. Where are we going to get our politicians? Where are we going to get the next Donald Trump? Okay, if all the people in the United States of America have been brainwashed, where are we getting the next Donald Trump? Where are we getting the next Ronald Reagan? We're not. If our culture sucks, if we're in a left-wing culture, it's not going to happen. If we have a culture that values the unvaluable, such as promiscuity, then we're never going to get rid of abortion. As long as promiscuity is the order of the day and everybody is expected not only to get as much sex as they can with anybody or anything that they can, but they're expected to report on it, to tell their friends and neighbors about how much sex they're having and with whom. So, and in that kind of an environment, who's going to come forward to say no to abortion? Nobody. So, to the book, Make the Parallel Polis into Sanctuary Cities. This is the part of the book where he is coming up with ideas for dealing with totalitarianism. That's what the book is about, totalitarianism, and he refers to what's going on in the United States of America today as soft totalitarianism. Families and religious fellowships were places of retreat. So were underground educational seminars. These things were part of a communal concept that one prominent dissident called the parallel polis. Under communism, Czech mathematician and human rights activist Václav Benda knew that there was no place in the public square for non-communists to have a say over how the country was to be governed. Communists held a monopoly on politics, on the media, and on the institutions of Czech life. But Benda refused to accept that dissenters had no choice but to resign themselves to surrender. He came up with the idea of a parallel polis, an alternative set of social structures within which social and intellectual life could be lived outside of official approval. The parallel polis was a grassroots attempt to fight back against totalitarianism, which mandated, in Benda's words, the abandonment of reason and learning and the loss of traditions and memory. Totalitarian power has extended the sphere of politics to include everything, even the faith, the thinking, and the conscience of the individual, he writes. The first responsibility of a Christian and a human being is therefore to oppose such an inappropriate demand of the political sphere, ergo to resist totalitarian power. A key institution of the parallel polis was the seminar, held in private homes. In these events, scholars would lecture on forbidden subjects, history, literature, and other cultural topics necessary to maintaining cultural memory. Benda's parallel polis was not merely a federation of discussion groups biding their time by talking about intellectual and artistic topics. Rather, its driving purpose was first, cultural preservation in the face of annihilation, and by doing so, the cultivation of the seeds of renewal. Sir Roger Scruton was one of the few Western academics who participated in these seminars and who even helped establish an underground university that granted degrees in secret. Other prominent Western intellectuals, including philosopher Charles Taylor and literary critic Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida was the guy that came up with the term deconstructionism and is a left-wing commie kind of guy. So I find it very surprising that he was a dissident, but whatever. Joined the fight. Like Scruton, Jacques Derrida was once detained by the Czech secret police and declared to be an undesirable person. When he and his British academic colleagues began to visit communist Czechoslovakia in the late 1970s, Scruton tells me they were astonished to discover that the Czechs were determined to cling to their cultural inheritance because they thought that it contained the truth, not just about their history, but the truth about their soul, about what they fundamentally are. That was the thing that the communists couldn't take away. Scruton and his team discovered that the Czech students were starving for knowledge, and not just the theoretical knowledge. They wanted to learn so they could know how to live, especially under a dictatorship of lies. Along those lines, in Notes from Underground, his 2014 novel set in Czechoslovakia of the 1980s, Scruton's protagonist, a young man named John, finds his way into Prague dissident circles. His guide tells him what to expect. Quote, and he added that there would be special seminars from time to time with visitors from the West who would inform us of the latest scholarship and help us to remember. To remember what? I asked. He looked at me long and hard. To remember what we are, unquote. These seminars forged what Scruton, quoting Czech dissident Jan Pataka, described as the solidarity of the shattered. They were an act of responsibility by the old, those who still had their memories of what was real toward the young. The formal institutions of Czech life, universities first among them, could no longer be trusted to tell the truth and to transmit the cultural memories that told Czechs who they were. But the task had to be done, or as Milan Hubble said, the Czech people would disappear. And so that would say the segment from the book Live Not by Lies, and that is to form an alternative polis, operate in a manner of speaking underground. Now, that's fine in Czechoslovakia in, again, the 1970s when the communists were in control, in charge, and it wasn't soft totalitarianism, it was totalitarianism at the point of a bayonet, and they were the majority, in the majority there. We don't need to form an alternative polis. What we need to do is just simply recognize and maintain existing cultural references. We don't have totalitarianism in the United States. I don't believe that we're going to have it because, again, the people that are pushing totalitarianism are bluffing. None of them really want what they pretend to want. I've seen it over and over again. There was, in California, tax the rich. That's the motto of the state of California. Tax the rich, tax the rich. And nobody thinks of themselves as rich. I guarantee you that Bill Gates doesn't look in the mirror and see a rich man. Okay, he's going to think that the person that's rich is Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon. And Amazon, probably, Jeff Bezos doesn't see himself as rich. He sees somebody else as being rich. Okay, so what happens is that when the person in California that's making $400,000, $500,000 a year that is expecting that tax the rich means tax the billionaires, okay, or tax the millionaires, gets the tax bill and his taxes are going up, he's going to be astonished, stunned. And I've heard reports of this where people that in that tax bracket, 400,000 or 500,000 and thereabouts, are literally stunned. Yes, one of them was quoted as saying, yeah, I wanted tax the rich, but I didn't know that was going to include me. See, so we go back to the saying, don't tax him, don't tax me, tax the guy behind the tree. So, again, all of these people on the left have clay feet. When it comes right down to it, they're not going to have a revolution. They're not going to give up their smartphones and all of their modern conveniences. So I don't see that it's going to they're really facing at this particular point a serious threat. The other part of this, of all the nonsense that's going on that we read about in the news every day, is Alinskyite. Saul Alinsky and his book, Rules for Radicals. And one of his rules is never let a good crisis go to waste. And what did we have with the pandemic but a huge, big, fat, juicy crisis? And they've been milking it for all it's worth for the past year. But pretty soon it's done. We've got the vaccine for it, so people are getting vaccinated, and life is starting to return to normal. And they're not going to like it. And they don't like it because they're not finished. They have all kinds of things that they'd like to get done. We had the spectacle in the state of California where the teachers' union, they came out and they said, we're not going to go back to school. We're not going to go back to teaching the classes in person, even though we have the vaccine, et cetera, et cetera. They said that we're going to stay out of school until certain conditions have been met. And they started listing conditions that had nothing to do with teaching or had nothing to do with school. It was like they wanted a living wage, they wanted a minimum wage throughout the state that was at least $15 an hour, and all kinds of basically socialist ideals that are put in place. And then they will go ahead and go back to school. Again, clearly taking their cues from Saul Alinsky. So, but that again is our own fault. We allow public employee unions. Every public employee union in this country should be decertified now. Every damn one of them. Because they're corrupt. And we know they're corrupt because the essence of corruption is conflict of interest. And public employee unions are inherently conflict of interest. So, back in a minute. Thank you. That brings me to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill. And until next time, be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and remember that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win.